Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to a world where bears don't just love honey. They're actually the ones running the entire honey industry.
Wow.
We'll be looking at an excerpt from The Bear in a Safari Hat. It's the first book in the New Bears for the 21st Century series by Jojo Gould.
Okay.
It's a children's book,
Right.
but trust me, it's got some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, what's interesting right away is how Gould mixes real stuff with fantasy.
Yeah,
It makes you think about, like, what if bears really did run the honey industry?
exactly. Like, would a bear CEO bring honey-roasted peanuts to a meeting instead of plain ones?
Hmm.
So we've got this young bear named Brosnan who's been sent from Jakarta to his uncle's honey farm in Ireland.
Hmm.
It's a requirement before he can become an international honey broker.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a culture shock.
Yeah, it's like that whole fish out of water thing,
Yeah.
Main character gets thrown into a totally new place.
Right.
It's a classic story idea because it can be funny and the character can grow from these experiences.
I see.
So Brosnan is going from busy Jakarta to the quiet Irish countryside.
Yeah, so instead of making honey deals, he'll probably be cleaning up stables, right?
Hmm. Most likely. We see Brosnan getting to Furry O'Mara's honey farm.
Yeah.
It's described as this traditional Irish farmhouse, but with a modern honey factory attached.
Interesting.
The welcoming party is especially funny. It's a bunch of bees with strong Irish accents.
Yeah, I love that detail. Those little funny bits make the world feel real.
Yeah.
Plus, it shows the cultural differences Brosnan will face.
Right.
He meets a whole crew right away. There's Snowbee, a polar bear training to be a manager, and Arnold, an Irish brown bear who's working on the farm during his summer break from Trinity University.
It's like a global meeting of bears, each with their own background.
And then there's Elsie, Brosnan's house bee assistant. She seems to know everything about the farmhouse and helps Brosnan around.
It makes you wonder, how did a bee become the housekeeper for bears?
Good question. It shows how different species live together in this world. And then, of course, there's Uncle Furry himself. He's described as gruff, old school, with a loud voice.
Oh, yeah.
He loves two things: country music and gambling. I can imagine Brosnan's reaction, going from fancy jazz to Furry blasting Johnny Bear.
Yeah, the book even says most bears lose when Furry puts on his country music. It's a funny way to show how different Brosnan's city life is from the farm.
For sure. That clash of cultures is a big part of the story.
Definitely.
Makes you think how that would work in a bear society. Would there be jazz clubs and country bars? Would bears fight over the radio in the honey factory?
Interesting to think about. Now, about the honey factory itself, it's super organized.
Okay.
Millions of bees are working, each with their own job and a color-coded jacket.
Wow.
Gould even includes parts of the bees' work songs, which are all about making honey together.
I'm really curious about those work songs. They're like company jingles praising Furry O'Mara and their honey. What do you think that says about this world?
Well, it's funny, of course.
Yeah.
But it also shows the bees have a strong sense of community. It makes you wonder about their relationship with the bears. Are they happy to be part of this industry?
That's a good point. It adds another layer to this simple children's story.
It does. Now let's talk about Brosnan.
Yeah.
He's a real scholar, more into the money side of honey than the actual work.
Right. He's studying to be a honey broker, so he wants to focus on accounting and finance on the farm.
Which makes this work experience even tougher. Furry seems to believe in learning by doing.
Yeah.
Remember that early morning wake-up call Brosnan gets?
Brosnan Bear, there's work to be done.
Exactly. It's a turning point for him.
Yeah.
He's realizing farm life isn't all relaxing and sweet. It's hard work, and he's not used to it.
Right. And while Brosnan struggles, Furry is busy with his gambling.
Yeah.
The book mentions him doing lottery tickets and betting on horse races. He even has a do not disturb rule when he's doing his bets.
That shows more about Furry. He's
Hold on.
full of contradictions, a traditional farmer who loves to gamble. I wonder how Brosnan, with his financial background, sees Furry's gambling. Does he think it's reckless, or does he kind of get it, like someone who understands risk?
That's an interesting thought.
Mhm.
It's one of the many things that make this story so fun to read.
I agree. It really makes you think about them differently.
Ah.
Yeah, you've got this young bear focused on the calculated risks of finance,
Right.
and then there's his uncle just going with the flow with luck and fortune.
It's a cool contrast. But even with the gambling, Furry seems really connected to his community.
Yeah.
The book talks about how he delivers honey to people himself, using Queenie in her cart.
I thought that was interesting. It shows that even with the modern factory and furry's habits, there's still that personal touch.
Right.
It's different from those grizzly bear truck drivers delivering honey far away, blasting rock music.
I love that image. It shows how big this world is and the different sides of the honey industry.
Exactly.
You've got furry's old school way and then those big-time grizzly truckers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the real world, where small businesses exist alongside corporations.
Totally. It makes you think how those approaches might clash or work together. But anyway, back to Brosnan.
Yeah.
He's right in the thick of it now, moving those big honey vats with Slurby watching over him.
But Brosnan is a scholar, not a worker. Remember, he's not built for heavy lifting.
Right.
After struggling with a few vats, he sneaks off for a honey tea break.
And falls asleep right away.
Of course.
It's funny, but it also shows how hard it is for him to adjust.
Yeah.
He's used to a fast intellectual world, and the farm is so different.
It makes you wonder if this will change his thinking.
Yeah.
Will he learn to like hard work, or will he just want to escape back to finance?
Big question that keeps you hooked. Of course, Furry sees him napping
Uh-oh.
and gives him another wake-up call. Brosnan Bear, there's work to be done.
Poor Brosnan. He can't catch a break.
Nope. I think those wake-up calls are more than just about work.
How so?
They show the difference between what Brosnan expects and what farm life really is.
Right.
He's constantly being pushed out of his comfort zone.
And it'll be interesting to see if he fights back or adapts.
Definitely. Speaking of adapting, what about Brosnan's love for jazz? Will he share it with those country-loving bears and bees?
Will we see a jazz trumpet versus a banjo showdown?
Now that would be something. It brings us back to cultures mixing. Will Brosnan bring new ideas to the farm? Not just about work, but also about art.
It's like the farm is a mini version of the world where different people are always bumping into each other and changing things.
You got it. And while Brosnan's at the center of it all, there are other interesting characters who add to the story, like Snowbee, the polar bear trainee manager. He knows a lot about making honey.
I'm curious about Snowbee's past. He was trained by the famous Snowball Olafsson.
Yeah,
I guess he's like a honey legend.
right.
Maybe Snowbee will be a mentor for Brosnan, someone to guide him and bridge the gap between old and new ways.
That's a good point. Snowbee's experience could help Brosnan a lot. Then there's Arnold, the architect working during his break.
Will his skills be useful?
Maybe.
Maybe he'll design a new beehive or expand the factory.
It'd be cool to see his design skills help the farm. It seems everyone, even the side characters, could impact Brosnan's journey.
I agree. And we can't forget the bees. They're not just background noise.
Right.
They make the whole honey thing work. And Gould gives them personalities and different jobs.
We have Adelphi, the wise old bee with a hearing problem.
Yeah.
Then there's Chewy, the young and talented bee in charge of all the worker bees.
And then Flora, Sepulveda, and Marcus, who like to take those little unauthorized breaks.
Exactly. Those little details about the bees make the story so charming and funny.
It reminds us that even in a bear-run world, the bees are the real honey heroes.
Their hard work, dedication, and organization keep everything running smoothly.
Right.
Will Brosnan learn to appreciate the bees? Will he see how everyone on the farm depends on each other?
And maybe he'll even pick up a tune or two from those work songs.
Imagine Brosnan the jazz lover humming a bee jingle.
It would be a wild mix. But as we finish up our deep dives into the bear in a safari hat, I think it's clear this is more than just a kid's story.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's fun and lighthearted with talking bears and singing bees.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more going on too, stuff that makes you think, no matter how old you are.
So what stands out to you as the most important theme?
I'd say it's how the book shows different cultures coming together and trying to understand each other. Brosnan's journey reminds us that seeing things from a new perspective, even if it seems weird at first, can be really good for you.
Yeah.
Like those Irish bees, Furry's country music, or Snowbee being all stoic and polar bear-like. Brosnan is always being challenged to see the world in a new way.
It's like the story wants us to be open to different things and step out of our comfort zones, just like Brosnan has to.
Exactly. And it also makes you think about finding your place in the world.
Right.
Brosnan wants to be a big-time honey broker, but as he spends time on the farm, he starts to wonder if that's what will really make him happy.
I see.
He realizes there's more to life than just getting ahead in business. The farm shows him a different way with hard work, tradition, and community.
Will Brosnan find a way to combine his money dreams with what he's learning on the farm?
That's the question. Could he be a honey broker who cares about where the honey comes from and how it's made?
It makes you think about what success really means, both for yourself and for your work. And the story also kind of touches on protecting the environment.
Right.
No bees, no honey. The whole farm depends on them.
It's a subtle message, but important, especially now with real bees in trouble.
Yeah.
It feels like Gould is reminding us to take care of these little guys and the balance of nature.
So as we leave Brosnan and the honey farm behind, what's the one thing you hope listeners will keep thinking about?
If you were a bear in this world, what would you be doing? Would you be a busy bee, a sharp broker like Brosnan, or a country singing farmer like Furry?
Or maybe you'd be Snowby, the expert manager, or Arnold, the architect, using your skills to help out.
Exactly. This story is so good because it lets us imagine and think about our own place in the world, even if it's a world full of bears and singing bees. It reminds us that everyone has a part to play, even in a story as strange and wonderful as this one.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.